So the three headlines from the president's speech last night, at least in the short term, are no ground troops, didn't mention ground troops. Yes, we are getting out in some number of weeks by the end of April. And there's not going to be regime change. Regime change, as he said explicitly, is not our goal. So are those true? Well, of course, you can't tell. You can't know at this point. As Trump himself said, this has been a very short engagement relative to, say, the First or Second World War or Vietnam. But all of those wars began with similar promises. This won't last long, back by fall, all the kind of famous slogans that we chuckle about, ironically, decades later. They had no idea what they were getting into. And that is true, again, for every conflict. The second people start dying, you really don't know where it's going to end. And that goes for this conflict, too. And all kinds of things could happen between right now and resolution. And some of them are awful. And there are also, by the way, signs that there is, as there always is, quite a distance between what politicians tell us and what they're actually planning to do or what they may do. So, for example, in the question of ground troops, the president didn't mention them last night, but they are apparently on the way. So American troops are on the way to the Persian Gulf, including portions of the Nevada National Guard for some reason. So either that's a statement of intent, the administration does plan to put boots on the ground, or it's an option they want to keep open. But either way, that very much could happen, particularly if the U.S. decides we need actual regime change. We need to subdue the country completely, change its leadership, demand unconditional surrender. None of those things can be achieved, it is pretty much believed, by air power alone. So that could happen, and it could accelerate in other ways too, probably too horrible even to think about, including the use of non-conventional weapons, nuclear weapons of some kind. And the effects of that would be what we don't know, because those weapons have never been used. The kind of nuclear weapons that modern nations possess are not even that closely related to the only ones that have ever been used 80 years ago in Japan. So what would happen next? Again, we can only guess, but it would be awful. So those questions were partly answered last night, but they're not really the right questions that we should be asking, because this is not just a war in Iran. It is, well, really, it's a pivot in history. What we're watching is a change of power globally. And so the questions we really should be thinking about, and that we're going to get the answers to fairly soon, would include who runs the world? Who's in charge of the world? Where are the real power centers? What is the nature of power? What does it mean to have power? How do you know if a country's powerful? Where does our power derive? Why is the United States a power exactly? And finally, what is the United States? Who are we? How do we understand ourselves? What do we stand for? What's our national character? Is there one? What are we defending when we go to war? So those are the questions that whether we want to ask or not, and they're almost never discussed in public for some reason, that we're going to get the answers to very soon, because conflict forces an answer to these questions, and this conflict in particular. This is a world war, which is to say the world, every nation in the world, while not obviously directly engaged in it, has a stake in the outcome, and the future of every country will be determined in part by what happens in Iran.